We are in Stavanger, Norway for the Norway Chess 2025. We have the women's tournament here with Koneru Humpy playing with the white pieces against her compatriot R. Vaishali. Battles between Vaishali and Humpy are getting more and more common as both of them have become two of the finest players in the world of chess. Humpy still quite higher rated than Vaishali. Her current rating is 2543, while Vaishali's rating is 2475. Also has loads of experience. However, I must say that Humpy is currently, almost twice the age of Vaishali. And the young talent from India is definitely one of the future stars of the country. But the battles between them are very exciting as Humpy waits for her opponent to come in. She's meditating, calming herself down, and in comes Vaishali. Very, very calm, very quietly makes her way to the board. And there you see Humpy and Vaishali just smile at each other. We have knight f3 made by the guest of honor there as the opening move, and we are ready to go. Humpy keeps back the piece on the board, a handshake, and off we go. d4 played here by Humpy, and what is Vaishali's move going to be? Remember, the 2024 candidates tournament was also played by both of them from India. So d5 played here, and now pawn to c4. The queen's gambit is on the board. Vaishali pushes her pawn to e6. It's the queen's gambit declined, and now the knight comes out to f3. She brings the knight out to f6. The queen's gambit declined is on the board. And what will be Humpy's choice? She doesn't go for the Catalan with g3. In fact, plays knight to c3, putting pressure in the center. Pawn to c6. We have the semi-Slav on the board here. And now pawn to e3 played here by Humpy. Vaishali plays bishop e7. Slightly less popular than knight bd7 move. You can then develop your bishop on d6, and Humpy plays her pawn to b3. She wants to play maybe bishop b2, bishop e2 and castles, but knight e4 by Vaishali is a very direct move, putting pressure on the c3 knight. Humpy takes it, knight takes knight, pawn takes, and this is Vaishali's preparation. As you can see, she's taken less than 2 minutes on the clock, while Humpy has taken more than 10 minutes now. Knight comes back to d2, attacking the pawn on e4. Pawn to f5 played. It looks like a nice position for white, I must say, with these central pawns and bishop e2 and castles. But on the other hand, black has more space because of these pawns. And maybe there could be some attacking potential with rook lift from f6 to h6. c5 played here by Humpy. And I think what she wants is to make square for her knight and bishop on c4. b6 played by Vaishali. I like this move a lot. And if you play b4 here, maybe she would like to play knight to a6 or bishop a6. So Humpy takes on b6. And this already feels like a step in not the right direction, as after a b6, white's position starts to get a little bit more cramped and black is getting more space. Like bishop is coming out on a6. The knight can then sit on d5. So knight to a6 played here by Vaishali. And white castles. And maybe now knight b4 to knight d5. Yes, she gets her knight into the b4 square. Pawn to a3 played by Humpy. And we just forgot that the a2 pawn was also hanging there. And the knight comes back to d5. She plays her knight to c4, looking at the e5 square, also keeping pressure on the d6 square. Bishop a6 played. The bishop has been activated. All of black pieces nicely positioned. The knight jumps to e5. This trade maybe not the best decision. It does make sense that the pawn on c6 is attacked, but after the bishops are traded, here bishop takes bishop, queen takes. She goes queen e8 first, Vaishali, defending the c6 pawn. You can just simply get rid of this knight. So a4 played. It does weaken the b4 square, but maybe she wants to get bishop a3 and trade off these bishops. Bishop d6 played here by Vaishali. A good move. And so the ideal scenario is take on e2, take on e5, and then you have a good knight against not so great bishop. Bishop takes bishop, taken here. Humpy gets up from her chair. She has 54 minutes. Vaishali now takes on e5, an intermediate move. And now you can actually keep the bishop here with bishop c4. And I think white is doing well in that position by just bringing the bishop back. But Humpy plays a very surprising move. D takes e5. And what Vaishali wanted, she has gotten in the form of a great knight versus a not so great bishop. Queen e2 played, but maybe Humpy feels that the bishop is not so bad. Bishop a3, bd6, it might be a strong bishop as well. Let's see who's right, who's wrong. Rook a7 played. One hour, 5 minutes to Vaishali, 47 minutes to Humpy. The queen comes to c4, keeping some pressure on the c6 pawn. Well, you can actually go c5 at the right time, like queen g6 first played. Careful here that white has to be, because f4, f3 could be an idea. Bishop c1 played by Humpy. This is actually being very careful against this move f4 by Vaishali. And now pawn to c5, fixing the b4 square. She brings her bishop to d2, covering these squares, but the bishop is a little bit in a defensive role on d2. The rook comes to a8. I'm wondering why did Vaishali do that? Maybe she's playing against the move a5, rook ac1 by Humpy. And rook c8 played. So both players not so easy or trivial to make progress here. Humpy plays rook c2. Well, hopefully, I think Humpy would love to maybe at some point break with b4 if she can. But for now, h6 is a useful move, making a luft for the king on h7 later. h3 by Humpy. Again, a useful move. And now Vaishali plays king to h7. I like how Vaishali is keeping her advantage. And both players down to 29 minutes. The rook comes to the c file. Well, right now b4 is difficult because of rook takes pawn here hanging. So queen goes to e8. And queen comes back to e2 for Humpy. A knight to e7. I wonder where the knight is heading to. Maybe knight g6, but then the e5 pawn can always be defended. And a5. Some action now on the board. a5 played here. If you take, which is what Vaishali does, the c5 pawn is hanging. And Humpy takes, rook takes c5. And Vaishali captures, rook takes c5 taken, rook takes c5. And now a4 trying to liquidate is not a bad idea, because then all the pawns would be on one side of the board. And there the knight would act as a superior piece as compared to the bishop. So a4 played, b takes a4, and now both queen takes and rook takes look fine. So she takes, rook takes a4, and plays knight, bishop c3. The knight jumps to d5 for Vaishali. Humpy plays her queen to c2. Have to be slightly careful here as Vaishali, because bd4 and rook c8 are coming in. She brings her rook back. She's very careful here. And yeah, if both players are careful, I don't see this game going too far. It should be a draw. King h2. And now rook c8, offering a trade of pieces. Bishop d2 played. And I think you just want to trade, and it's a draw. But she goes rook b8. Slightly ambitious there. Rook c6 played by Humpy. And now rook to b2. Oh, that's a nice move. Because if queen takes b2, there is queen takes c6. She does play queen takes b2, queen takes c6. And Capablanca used to say that the queen and knight coordinate better than the queen and bishop, because the bishop and queen both move in similar ways. By the way, queen b7, pinning here could be an idea. She plays queen b5, which is a good move. Bishop a3. I believe that trade of queens would lead to an drawish position. So she goes queen f1. Now queen b7. Vaishali down to 30 seconds. They have 10 seconds increment per move because 40 moves has been reached. Goes queen a1. If you go bishop f8, this queen takes pawn check. So bd6, defending here. And now Vaishali, goes and blunders with queen a2. What about bishop f8? She completely forgets it. It's totally lost. Humpy has 1 minute 22 seconds to figure out the win. She had to keep the queen on this diagonal. No bishop f8 found here by Humpy. And look at Vaishali, that expression where she completely missed that move. And it's all over. King g6. Things shifted so quickly. Queen takes g7 and she resigns. It's checkmate coming up from kind of dominating would be too strong, but kind of being on the front foot throughout the game. Vaishali just blundered on the last two moves and threw away the game. That must hurt a lot because she did play well, but I think it was the time pressure that got to her. She was down to last 10-15 seconds and there she made a mistake with queen a2. This can happen to the best in the business. But Humpy starts off with a very big win. 3 points she receives for this victory. And will Humpy carry over her form that she showed at the FIDE Women's Grand Prix in Pune? We'll see. For now, we hope you enjoyed the game.
Humpy, congratulations on the great start to Norway Chess 2025. Last year it was a tough tournament, but how are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's a very balanced game, and out of the opening I didn't gain any advantage, so I was just playing very normal position. And at some points I even liked black's position because my bishop on b2 is kind of blocked with the pawn on e5. But once I exchange these pawns on the queen side, it's more or less equal position, and that's where I offered a draw as well. But I think she started over pressing. And she blundered towards the time trouble. Obviously, when she played queen b5, bishop a3, it's logical to take on b2 and to play g5 because I guess she completely missed the plan of queen b7 and bishop f8 in the game.
Right, you have been in tremendous form from Pune and great start here. All the very best for the rest of the tournament.
Thank you.